त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप। अर्जुन उवाच कथं भीष्ममहं संख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदन इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदन। गुरुन् हत्वा हि महानुभावान् श्रेयो भोक्तुं भैक्षमपीह लोके। हत्वार्थकामांस्तु गुरूनिहैव भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रदिग्धान्। न चैतद्विद्मः कथं नो गरीयः यद्वा जयेम यदि वानो जयेयुः। यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामः तेव स्थिताः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्राः। कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः। यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधिमां त्वां प्रपन्नम्। न हि प्रपश्यामि ममापनुद्यात् यच्छोकमुच्छोषणमिन्द्रियाणाम्। अवाप्य भूमावसपत्नमृद्धम् प्राज्यं सुराणामपि चाधिपत्यम्। सञ्जय उवाच एवमुक्त्वा ऋषिकेशं गुडाकेशः परन्तपः न योत्स्य इति गोविन्दम् उक्त्वा तूष्णीं बभूवः। तमुवाच ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन्निव भारत। सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः। श्रीभगवानुवाच अशोच्यानन्वशोचस्त्वं प्रज्ञावादांश्च भाषसे। कथासु न कथासूंश्च नानुशोचन्ति पण्डिताः। न त्वेवाहं जातु नासं न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपाः। न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयमतः परम्। देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिः। धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्णसुखदुःखदाः। अहमापायिनो नित्याः तांसि तिक्षस्व भारत। यं हि न व्यथयन्त्येते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ। समदुःखसुखं धीरं सोमृतत्वाय कल्पते। नासतो विद्यते भावः न भावो विद्यते विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तः त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः।
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Two kinds of buddhis. Buddhis here means cognitions. What are they?
Object cognition and eye cognition.
Object cognition, and then is cognition, which is eye cognition. That is Vedanta 301. But object cognition and is cognition. Is cognition is cognized based on eye only, really. So is cognition is non-separate from eye cognition. But as Shankara is telling us, it is cognition and then object cognition. The is cognition does not change. Object that is called by the word is keeps changing. Pot is, thought is, cat, mat, rat, hat is, cat is, mat is, hat is, rat is doesn't change. Oh, but then what about is not? Is not also contains is. Absence of the thing is. This is one of the objections. In fact, we will cover most of them so that when we go through it, it will be easy. Yeah. So then this is what we talked about yesterday. So there is something variable in every cognition, and then there is something invariable in every cognition. So the variable and the invariable invariably team up to bring a product to light. This is very interesting. So when I say pot is, pot asti is, then the object cognition, which is manifesting the pot in the head, and then what? The is cognition which is constant goes and joins the pot. Right? And here is where all the travails start. Sadness, correct? So the is cognition joins the sadness, because this is what he says. Sukha, dukkha, this alternating sadness, and occasional, once in a while, little bit accidental joy. So sadness is. So sadness is objectified, correct? Not in the same way as the pot. We understand that because here it is a little more sukshma, and in fact the more subtle it is, the harder it is to separate the is cognition and the object cognition. With reference to a gross pot, very easily you can say, oh, I'm not the pot, I'm not the, I'm not the carpet, I'm not the house. Nobody says carpet oham, house oham, and nobody says I'm house, and because the house has a crack, I'm weeping. I'm weeping for a different reason that is triggered by the crack. The cracks have a certain synergy. That crack and this crack, somehow, have a certain synergy. But that's not what we are talking about here. Nobody makes the mistake, I'm as good as my kitchen, Yeah, so this is the whole kind of a thing. You beg to differ? So nobody says I'm as good as the kitchen, I'm as good as my bedroom, I'm the staircase. Nobody says that. Why? Because the is cognition with regard to the kitchen, walls, staircase is very, very blatantly separate, from the object cognition, staircase, etc. The is cognition is separate. I recognize the is cognition as invariable in all these gross examples. But the subtler we get, the harder it is to keep this distinction going. Sometimes it's harder with kitchen and pots and pans also. Yeah, very hard. But generally speaking, it is easier than when it gets very subtle. Pot, I am not. It's very easy to say. But thought sounds like pot. Similar, but as soon as you talk about thought, immediately that thought in the form of the sadness, the thought that has the frequency of sadness, it's broadcasting the sadness, Yeah. ISAD radio station. And it's broadcasting the sadness. And then what is it doing? It is also making it harder for the I, not the I thought, not the I cognition, but the I who has dawned on the, what's the word for it, the role of the thinker, right? The ahankara with reference to the thinker. Who is the ahankara? The I notion with reference to the thinker who has dawned on the thinking cap. So this I has a very hard time differentiating between the is cognition and the thought as an object of this is cognition, as the object. Whereas that difficulty is not so much there with gross things that one can hold with all the five senses, one can grasp. Things that can be held and all, you don't make that mistake, generally speaking, Of course there are special circumstances. But generally speaking, nobody makes that mistake. So, but when it gets to the question of thought, sad thought, immediately the is cognition joins that. Of course, the is cognition is the invariable thing in every cognition. So, the is cognition is there. And then the is cognition is forever, correct? And then the sadness is a thought that has arisen. Dukkha. Dukkha has arisen and the mind says, here it is, dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. And then what does the person do? The is cognition gets mixed up and lost in the dukkha cognition. But what's the difference? That's why we have to live. There are 16 more chapters left. Agre spashtam bhavet. What does that mean? Yeah? Later it will become clear. That's why we are still at the beginning. Yeah. But this much we need to understand, that the pot is no different than a thought. Pot disappears, thought disappears. Yes, I agree, except sad thought. That somehow never seems to disappear. It only disappears upon the administration of an antidepressant. It does not disappear otherwise. This is the feeling. This is the rampant feeling. But really speaking, it's not so much the sadness, but that affects as much as the identification with it. This is what it is. Here we are not talking completely of the identification of oneself. It's more the identification of the is cognition. So maybe we should call it is-dentification rather than identification. So this is what happens. Now here another, as soon as Adi Shankara stops saying this, he just, his coffee is cooling on the side and he's just going to take a little break and sip his tea. And the objection, another objection is raised. So, if I understand you correctly, you are saying that in every cognition there are two aspects. Well, yes. One is variable, the other is invariable. Yes, you are correct if that's what you heard. So, one is sat cognition. Can we call it that? Yes, sat buddhi. Then can we call the other mithya cognition because this is cognizing mithya? Yes, go ahead. Call it mithya cognition. Mithya means that dependent reality which is dependent upon the is. Now, the objectioner in honeyed, dull-set tones, because the more mean the objection, the nicer they get, because they feel like they're doing something really, they have the upper hand. So now, if I understand you correctly, you are saying that Satyam and Mithya bandy together, join together to produce the cognition. No, that's not what I said. Well, if you are not saying that, I am asking you this. How come Sat, which is Asanga, which is uninvolved with everything, goes and joins the object cognition? And that means what? Sat becomes Asat. Sat becomes Mithya. Yes, this is what is called, there is no, Sataha Adarshanam, the invisibility of Sat. Sat becomes Mithya. So there is a Mithyafication of the Sat. So the is cognition joins, as it were, the Mithya cognition, the object cognition. So if the is joins the object, then where is the is other than what is tied up in the object? There is no is. Is has gone. Your is cognition is gone. Well, to which Adi Shankara is going to say, he's going to say, na. What does that mean? No. Not at all. Because you have forgotten the two most important words in Vedanta. What are they? As though. There is no joining. There can be no joining. It's not like the police, has gone and joined all the thieves. The band of thieves, has been joined by the cops. The police men have also joined the thieves. So the is cognition is like the policemen who are actually watching what is happening. So they don't go and actually join it. They are the neighborhood watch. They are the ones who are watching and keeping the place safe from, the vermins like Dukkha who want to parade and masquerade and they ride on the is cognition because they don't have any other basis. How else will they broadcast themselves? They borrow from the I cognition and they mistakenly try to leave an imprint on something that no imprint can be left. This is what the whole thing is. So this is another objection. And then the third objection, many objections are raised. One more objection that is raised is that, is qualifies the pot cognition. Is makes the pot look nicer. Yes? No, no. Why? Because the pot has no basis without the is cognition. The is cognition, sat buddhi lends a being to the object. So neither does it join the object, nor does it make the object, nor does it qualify the object. In fact, without this is cognition, sad buddhi, everything is not. So for pot to be pot, it needs the is cognition. So it's not like saying, and here I am very happy to demonstrate because this is what Adi Shankara says, Nilo Ghataha. Means what? Blue pot. So we are happy to oblige. Blue pot. Nilo Ghataha. So here, Nilaha, the word blue, and the word Ghataha, pot, are in what? Apposition, not opposition. This is a grammatical verb, meaning same gender, number, and case. Okay? They are in apposition. In other words, the Nilaha, the blue, is an adjective to pot. So, Sad Buddhi plus pot, are they in apposition? No. Pot is. Pot exists. Is the word pot and existence in apposition. Are they in apposition? No. One is qualifying the pot. The color blue is qualifying the pot, whereas existence is not qualifying the pot. You know? Existence is not like the color that is glazing over the pot. In fact, without existence, there is no pot. You see how they are two different things. This is what Adi Shankara points out here. And so therefore, he says that whenever Sat, the is cognition, and the, what he calls not is cognition, ain't cognition. What is that? You know, that is the object cognition. When the object cognition, especially when the objects are subtle, like thought, feeling, etc., when they are broadcast in that same mind, and they are, you know, the ahankara, the I notion mistakenly identifies with them, there is a mix-up of Sat and Asat, which is not a good thing. What does that lead to? A big headache, you know, in the form of sorrow. And the chapters and the verses of the Bhagavad Gita are the various Tylenols and aspirins. Each one gets rid of it. Yeah. First for a little while, and then ultimately there is no more headache, because you don't have the same head. I don't say you don't have the head. You know, you have got a head from the previous head that you had, that previous head which was mistaking and mixing up, making khichdi out of this buddhi. What is khichdi? Yeah. Yeah, dal and rice cooked together. And after that you cannot separate them. Yes. So, making khichdi out of this buddhi. Which buddhi? Sad buddhi and asad buddhi. Object cognition and I cognition, object cognition and subject cognition, object cognition and is cognition. When the two are mixed up and when they are not delineated, when one is not able to witness the object cognition and identify with the is cognition, that is when sorrow, you know, has a heyday, has a field day, jumps all over the place, and it has ousted the witness. Witness has become witless, and then having closed the door on the witness, you know, sits in the house, closes all the shades also, and then it has a damp presence, and then it grows on itself, and that's what happens. Yes, this is what happens. Sorrow, fear. First it's afraid of itself, then it makes everything afraid of it, and it's just a very, very bad news. Yeah, very bad news. So that's why this verse becomes very important. With this, let us just quickly, you know, make short shrift of the Bhashya. I think we have talked enough about this. Yeah. Na asatah avidyamanasya शीतोष्णादेः sakaranasya na vidyate nasti bhavo bhavanam astita. He is saying it 3 times. So he says that which is mithya. What is mithya? That which depends on sat, like pot, thought, etc. Things that do not have an independent existence. So can you please count the things? No, I cannot oblige and count the things because we'll be here for several lifetimes. I refuse to do that. Instead, let us count that which can be counted. What is not mithya? What is not mithya? Sat. Who is that? I. Yeah. That's all. Oh, other than me, everything is mithya? Bingo. Okay. Wow. You got it. Other than you, every single thing, anything, whether it is gross, whether it is subtle, you know, whether it is, no matter how real it looks, it is mithya. Mithya doesn't mean unreal. What does it mean? It means a leaning reality, that which leans over Sat and then tries to take over Sat when the witness becomes witless. Simple, very simple, very easy. So then he says, asatah avidyamanasya. Avidyamana means that which is really not there. And he gives an example, like hot, heat and cold. That means people make a big deal out of, Hot, 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 hot. Oh, cold, 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 cold. Oh, so hot. Oh, so cold. This is what it is. And what was the other continuum? Yeah. Dukkha. Dukkha people think is real. What is dukkha? Sorrow, sadness. People people give it a place to sit, give it a throne, and then do 2-3 namaskars every morning. Meaning validating further the existence of that which doesn't have existence. So he says, Shitoshna Dehe, for this hot and cold, the other two continuums that were described in this, in verse number 15, which is Shita Ushna Sukha Dukha Adehe Sakaranasya. So we get one more definition of mithya, that which exists karanaihi saha or karanena saha vartate, that which is non-separate from the cause. That is one of our definitions of mithya. One is what? Non-separate from the cause. What is the cause? Sat. What is the cause of everything? Sat. What is the cause of Sat? Sat. So, that is all it is. So, Sat doesn't have a cause. Sat is the causeless cause of everything. Everything is because Sat alone is cause. Got it? Okay. So, Sakaranasya. So, anything that has cause is mithya. Oh, pot is mithya. Yes, now I know, because pot has a cause. What is the cause of pot? Clay is satyam. Only in reference to the pot. Because we have to give some example. You have to give some example, otherwise how to make the person understand? Cloth is sat, fabric is sat, shirt is mithya, fabric sat. No, fabric also has a cause. Yarn. Yarn is sat. Now don't start spinning a yarn. Yarn is mithya. Why? Yarn has fibers. What kind of fibers? Woolen fibers, cotton fibers. Fiber is also mithya. Why? Because that has one dada cause there. Dada means grandfather. Grandfather cause or grandfather clause. Something is there, that is some overseer is there. Sat alone doesn't have anyone looking over the shoulder. Why? Because Sat has no shoulders. Formless, nameless. So there is no one. Causeless, formless, nameless. So he says, Asataha avidyamanasya, things that really do not exist, the non-existent things like mithya, like hot, cold and dukkha, and things that have sakarana, means karanena saha vartate, those that subsist along with the cause, meaning they cannot, without the cause they cannot remain. Even for a minute, they are codependently attached to the cause. So wherever they are, the cause is not far away. The cause of the shirt is not in the next town. It is right where the shirt is. The cause exists, correct? Yeah. It's not that you purchased the shirt and left the cause in the shop. No. That is how it is. So sakaranasya means that which cannot be away from its cause, because if you remove the shirt from its cause, only emperor's clothes are there, correct? So the shirt cannot be removed from the cause at all. And then therefore what? So the shirt exists with cause, everything, the pot exists with cause, you cannot remove it. So in that sense, na vidyate means it is not there. And he explains it as na asti bhavanam bhavaha. The existence is not there for that which is a dependent reality, astita. The feminine noun of asti, astita. So, and then nahi shitoshnadi sakaranam pramanaihi nirupyamanam vastu sambhavati. So furthermore he says, why it is not there? Because with the help, it cannot be proved. Nirupanam means proved. Nirupamanam means proof. When you start looking into it with your own pramanas that you have at hand, it starts to fall apart. Yeah. So that which has a cause starts to fall apart because the cause is not the ultimate cause. And then what happens? The cause becomes because. And then the because which already has another cause. And then you look at that cause. Like just what we did with the shirt and the fabric and the yarn and the fibers and the molecules and the particles. It goes on and on and on. You know, it goes to anavastha dosha. An irreconcilable, you know, what is that called? Infinite regression. It goes into a infinite regress. So then, therefore, such a thing which has these two faults, one is that it cannot remain without its cause for a second, and when you really look at its cause, where is the cause? You know, other than such, there is no cause. It falls apart for the even by your own pramanas. You don't even need the Veda to come in. Then, you know, that shows you it doesn't have a being. And we start with sorrow, because that is what Arjuna's problem is. You know, it is sorrow. So sorrow does not have a being, because when you look at the cause, the cause, like a cockroach, when it is, you know, when you shine the light, it goes and hides under something. Yeah, never to be found. Very interesting. So then he says, Vikaro hi saha, he concludes. Saha means what? This sorrow, you know, Shita, Ushna, etc., all this vastu, this you know, anirupayamanam vastu, that which cannot be proved to exist or proved to not exist, is in between vastu. What happens? Vikaro hi saha, it is full of modifications. And actually he also says it is full of contradictions. Because the modifications are contradictory. For one time it is the cause. Seen from another standpoint, it is the effect. It's a contradiction. So, vikaro hi saha, it is full of modifications. And so what? Let it be a modification. Vikarascha vyabhicharati. When vikara means what? It keeps changing. Object cognition keeps changing, unlike the subject. The subject is not subject to change of any kind. Vikaro hi saha, vikarascha vyabhicharati, yatha ghatadi samsthanam chakshusha nirupyamanam mridvyatirekena anupalabdhehe asat tatha sarvo vikarah karana vyatirekena anupalabdhehe asan. You know, so very, very beautiful. We have already seen this, so this is going to go fast. So everything is subject to vikara, modification. Each thing that you call mithya, a dependent reality, is nothing but a vikara. And what is vikara? Modification. And so what about this vikara? Vikarascha vyabhicharati. Vyabhicharati means keeps shifting, keeps moving, keeps putting the blame on something else. Mithya is like that. I am sad because today you are sad because of the significant other. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then now I am sad because you did not get cake. Okay, then now I am sad because you did not have something else. The neighbor was not nice to you. Okay, now I am sad because, do you see how it keeps changing? Yeah. You cannot really pinpoint the cause. It keeps changing. And sometimes sadness has no cause. Now I am sad because there is no cause. This is what happens. So you cannot pinpoint it. It's if you try to pin it, it flies away and attaches to something else. Then you try to pin it over there. It flies away and goes somewhere else. Very difficult to catch, And the mithya has its own song. Catch me if you can. That is the mantra of mithya. Yes. Yeah. Catch me if you can. That's what it says. So we don't bother to catch mithya. We catch hold of the sat, upon which mithya leans. Like the crow going into the peacock convention with a few peacock feathers. This is what mithya does. And so here, he says that vikarascha vyabhicharati yatha, just as ghata, where was I? Ghatadi samsthanam. That's what we were doing, right? Yeah, ghatadi samsthanam. Samsthanam here means the form, the akara, the form called pot. Chakshusha nirupyamanam, that which is identified and what should I say? known, proved through eyes, mrit vyatirekena anupalabdhehe asat, meaning it cannot be seen like the pot which the eyes testify that this is a pot, do they not? So the eyes say this is a pot, pot asti. But then when even as the eyes see the pot, it is impossible for the eyes to see the pot without its immediate cause, which is, yeah, I was afraid you would say glaze. Okay, so it is impossible to see the pot without what? The clay. Without its immediate cause. And if you are a Tattvadarshi, you will also see the other cause, which is what? I, Sat. So because it is impossible to live, it is so attached to clay, literally. It cannot live even for a second without its cause. Mrit vyatirekena, without the mrit. Anupalabdhehe, the pot is not available without clay. No, but what about the silver pot, the copper pot? Imagine a pot without any metal, any material. Any metal or material. Is it possible? No. So that's all is being pointed out. Therefore it is mithya, because it is, codependently attached to its cause. And then it is non-separate from its cause. Sakarana, we have already seen. And then what? When you try to look into the cause, that cause is not the final cause, because the clay has its own cause, and etc. etc. So therefore, sarvo vikaraha karana vyatirekena anupalabdhehe asan. So they are all modifications, because they are attached to their causes, because they don't have an independent, attached to the cause means what? They don't have an independent existence. So they are all asat. Mithya here means asat. So, janma pradvamsabhyam prak urdhvam cha anupalabdhehe. Another reason they are mithya is before the birth of the pot, what was it?
Clay.
Yeah, non-pot, let us say. Not available as a pot, correct? Can you see the pot before it is made? No. Yes, say no quickly. So, yeah. And then, can you see the pot after it has been pulverized into a powder with a mortar and mortar and pestle? No. That is another reason it is, asat. The second definition of mithya is given here. What is that? First is anirvachaniya. Asadbhyam anirvachaniya. And in other words, it is non-different from sat, correct? And then what is this? It is vyabhichari. It keeps changing. There was a time that it is not. There is a time it is. And there comes another time where it is not, which is the definition of sat. Trikale pitisthati. This is sat. And anything that is not trikale pitisthati. What is trikale pitisthati? That which is the same in 3 periods of time. In 3 kalas. 3 is 3. In Sanskrit also. Trikala. Yeah. In 3 periods of time, that which does not change is sat. And in mithya, in 2 of the 3 periods, it is not there. Future, it's not there. Past, it is not there. Only in the present, it is there. What kind of sat it is? Therefore, it is asat. Very easy. Okay. So then, Janma Pradva, this is a little nod to our Vaisheshika friends. Janma, before, after, because they keep saying that there is actually a kind of a, what is that? There are some philosophies that say that there is, I don't want to get into it, okay? Don't make me. So there is, in some philosophies, they claim that the abhasa of the pot, a residue of the pot remains after its destruction, and then a akara, a kind of a ghost pot, remains before its birth. Very crazy philosophy. That's why I said let's not get into it. Okay. This is far more interesting. So, mridadi karanasya tat karanasya cha tat karana vyatirekena anupalabdhehe asatvam. Okay. So, now comes our fellow. Who is the fellow? Tat asatve cha sarva abhava prasangah iti chet. This iti chet fellow. What if? Iti means thus. Chet means what if it's like this? So iti chet fellow, this what if fellow. And these are all, these are all very difficult concepts, If we don't pay attention, we miss it. But it's an important concept. And so what is this person doing? This person is, mounting defenses each time because the person is not understanding what is being said. He's trying to understand. Let's give them the benefit of doubt. So the first objection has already come. First of many objections. And he says that mrit adi karanasya. So now mrit has a karana, correct? What is mrit? Earth, clay and all the other karanas of clay. And then that cannot be delineated separately, correct? Separately, the clay cannot be delineated separately from the cause. And then the pot cannot be delineated separately from the clay. Am I understanding you correctly? That's why you are calling it asat mithya? Yes. Now for the final shot. Tad asatvecha sarvabhava prasangah iti chet. This person was attending a Buddhist lecture. Yeah. Walked over from there. And he says that, how do you know that you yourself said that the pot cannot exist without clay. Correct? So pot is mithya. So then the clay is also mithya. Correct? Yes. And if the clay had a cause, that would also be mithya. Then the cause of everything is what? Cause of everything is what? Sat. Sat is also mithya. That is the objection. Because the effect is mithya. And the effect has a relative cause. That relative cause is also mithya. And then everything you said ends up in sat. Then really speaking, what you're trying to say is that the truth of the world is a big zero. Shunya. Zero. There is nothing really that makes this world go round. Nothing. Nothingness. And then what? You have to qualify that by a moment of silence, because this is a big conclusion. Yeah. Nothing. Iti chet. What if there is really nothing? Meaning, this is one way to get out of studying the rest of this bhashya. And then verse number 17. Because if nothing is the truth of this world, then what do I have to know about nothing? Nothing. What can I know about nothing? Nothing. So if the non-existence is the truth, then what should I, if that is the truth, then there is nothing to study. There is nothing to want. There is nothing to talk about. Who is saying nothing? Is it asat buddhi or sad buddhi? First you find out. Who is saying nothing? Who is saying? Who is saying nothing? Is the non-existent saying nothing, or is the existent one saying nothing? So Sadbuddhi is saying nothing, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So then, if the existent one is saying nothing and no one, then what about the existent one? It should start first by denying itself, correct? And that does not look very nice, because it's all about self-denial. You cannot deny yourself. You try. I don't exist, plan a mantra. I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there. The more you keep saying I'm not there, what is the first two words of I am not there? I am, ahamasmi, I am, but I'm not there, I am, but I'm not there. That is your life. Yeah, that is everyone's life. I am, but I'm disconnected. I'm not really there. I am, but I don't feature in my own life. I am, but I learn to need to star in my own life. That's how in Vedanta, that's how one becomes a star. You start by becoming a star in your own life. This is what it is. So I am not there means what? I am. That I am never shuts up. So how can you use not there in I am in the same thing? But then I'm speaking out of turn. Let Adi Shankara refute this. Yeah, why should we work so hard? Let us just look at the Bhashya. So iti chet fellow has come. The answer is simple. Na, sarvatra buddhi dvaya upalabdhehe sad buddhi asad buddhi buddhi iti. He says no, an ingenious answer, He says that there are two kinds of cognitions hidden in the process of cognizing everything. Let us call one buddhi sad buddhi and the other buddhi asad buddhi. Where have we heard this before? In the last 3 classes, okay? Yeah. So here what he means by asad buddhi is object cognition. You please don't get confused. Asad buddhi is not the cognition of something that is not there. It is object cognition, and his claim is that the objects really don't exist. Okay? Yeah, that's why he calls it asad buddhi. Sat buddhi is the is cognition, because the meaning of the word sat is is. So yad vishaya buddhi na vyabhicharati tat sat, yad vishaya buddhi vyabhicharati tat asad iti sad asad vibhage buddhi tantre sthite. So he is very simple. So he says that how do you distinguish between sad buddhi and asad buddhi? The cognition, that aspect of the cognition which is invariable, is called sad buddhi, and that from the standpoint of the object, the cognition varies, and that part of that cognition is called asad buddhi. So there are two kinds of cognition involved in the recognition of any object, sad and asad. In relation to that object, one cognition keeps changing, which is the object cognition, because I see this pot, then I have a certain pot cognition, then I see which pot. The next in size, this pot, then I have another cognition, then I see there's one more. He's not willing to come out. He doesn't have job satisfaction, so he's having a little strike. He's trying to unionize. So, therefore, we'll let that one be. Have some time out. So, with regard to this pot, I have this pot cognition. With regard to this pot and the one that's not coming out, I have that pot and this pot cognition. Yeah, still we could use you. And with regard to the big pot, I have big pot cognition, correct? Small pot cognition. So the cognition keeps shifting depending on the size of the pot. And if you want to get really fancy, we can bring out the fingerlings, and these are all what? They are made for the fingers, yeah. The fat ones you have to put on the fat fingers, and like the thumb, etc. And then the thin one you have to put on the thin fingers, and then that's how it goes. So now you have, this pot cognition, this pot cognition, this pot cognition. So many pot cognitions, correct? Yeah. And the cognition is shifting. Oh, this one has 2 handles. Oh, that one has no handles. Okay. Well, if we had to make a category, can we say that the first 3 fingers, they have no handles, and the other 2 have handles? Well, surprise, this one has handles. And so, you see, so therefore, so every other finger has no handles. No, that also we cannot do. Well, that's interesting. So we can keep on making a whole thesis about this. And each of these things, the buddhi is shifting in perception of these various parts, correct? Yeah, so therefore, vyabhicharati, it keeps shifting. And so that which keeps shifting is asat, and you cannot say that the sat buddhi goes away. Because if the sat buddhi goes away, then how are these various things recognized? If the Sat Buddhi is born with one pot and has died off with one pot, then how did you recognize pot number 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pots? How did you recognize all those other pots? So therefore, the Buddhi with respect to the Sat does not shift. And the buddhi with reference to the asat keeps changing, you know. And then what? You know, where did we? Yeah. Sarvatra dve buddhi sarvaihi upalabhyate. This is not just for me, Adi Shankara says, it is for you also, it is for everyone. Sarvaihi upalabhyate, you know, samanadhikarane. You know, samadhikarane means in every place, in every location, these two buddhis are there at the same time. You know? And therefore, when I say pot exists, it's not like saying blue pot. Why? Blue qualifies pot, is does not qualify as pot. Is the reality statement about the nature of the pot's existence, which is iffy. Yeah. The is, when I say pot is, what I am saying is that the isness does not belong to the pot. It's a reality statement. It's a statement on the nature of the pot, the ephemeral nature of the pot, because the is has gone and joined the pot for a little while until it cracks, that's all. Then after that, the is doesn't go away. Is does not go away. Pot is, crack pot is. That's what, it just shifts a little bit. That's all it is. So that which shifts is called object buddhi, that which never shifts. The is never changes. Is never becomes was, is never becomes will be. The is always is, and it is called sad buddhi, and it is there in every location in the cognition of everything. Nahi nilotpalavat san ghatah san patah san hasti iti evam sarvatra, that we have already explained. Tayoho buddhayoho घटादि बुद्धि व्यभिचरति तथा च दर्शितम न तु सद बुद्धि. I just finished saying that, so you have to trust me on that. And then going further, तस्मात् घटादि बुद्धि विषयः असन व्यभिचारात् न तु सद बुद्धि विषयः अव्यभिचारात्. So घटादि बुद्धि विषयः असन, so all objects which are connected to the object cognition are mithya, because they are dependent on the is cognition. And the is cognition alone, because it doesn't change, na vyabhicharat, because of the no avyabhicharat, because there is no change, no modification, it alone is true. Everything else is as though. This alone is not as though. It alone is. It's the causeless cause of everything. So, and then what? Ghate vinashe. Okay, this fellow comes back again. Yeah. Who is this fellow? Itiche. Yeah. This one is called Itiche. Why simply give all of them the same names? Yeah. Generally Nanu. That is one species one. This one is Itiche. Yeah. So then the Itiche comes and says, घटे विनष्टे घट बुद्धौ व्यभिचरन्त्यां सद्बुद्धि अपि व्यभिचरति इति चेत्. All right, you say that the pot is, asat, because the pot is destroyed. But when the pot is destroyed, the pot buddhi goes away, correct? Meaning object buddhi goes away. But the subject buddhi, because it is connected to that pot, that also goes away. Iti chet. What if the subject buddhi also goes away? What's the answer? No. No. Everything. For all of them the answer is no. Let us see why. Patadau api sadbuddhi darshanat visheshena vishayaha eva sa sadbuddhi visheshena vishaya eva sa sadbuddhihi. So he says, very simply he says, no. Why? Because the is consciousness continues. Object consciousness, perhaps the consciousness that is conditioned as it were by the object. Now we can start talking fancy. So the consciousness which is as though conditioned as it were by the object dies away with the object. Correct? Object consciousness is no longer there when the object is destroyed, yes or no? Yes. But what about the subject consciousness? No. It is not destroyed. How do we know? Because the perception of the next object takes place effortlessly. If the subject consciousness was also destroyed, then I should enter PVS, permanently vegetative state, not being unable to cognize anything at all. But that is not the case. That's how everyone should be. Everyone should be catatonic. The first thing they cognize, first pot in the whole life. Baby sees first pot, or baby sees mother and recognizes Mama. Sadbuddhi got destroyed. But no loss, because Mama's Sadbuddhi was also destroyed long ago. So Mama doesn't feel bad that the child is not recognizing. You see? This is the problem. So we don't have this problem. Because you recognize thought, pot, and then the elephant sitting on the pot, and then a flower on the elephant, and all these things you recognize seamlessly and effortlessly, and so the destruction of the pot doesn't mean the destruction of the is consciousness, or the is awareness, or the I consciousness, or the subject consciousness. That does not, sorry, you are wrong, Mr. Itiche. And then what? He tries again, doesn't stop, This one goes on and on. And then he says that Sadbuddhivat Ghatabuddhi api ghatantare drishyate iti chet. Okay, he tries another tack. Oh, so this Sadbuddhi you say is not destroyed. No, it is never destroyed. Consciousness is never destroyed. What I am conscious of, that thing may come and go, but that I am conscious is never destroyed. That consciousness is that which lends its existence to other things, so that is buddhi is never destroyed. But the object is destroyed? Yes, the object comes and goes. Vyabhichara. So you say the isness is never destroyed. No. Then what if the object is also not destroyed? So why are you discriminating against the pot, the one that is staging a protest, That's why it's refusing to come out and be in the conversation, not even making a noise. Staging a protest. Why I have to be finite all the time? Why don't you become finite? So why not say that the object consciousness also continues? Object goes, but object consciousness continues, because in fact, and I'll make it sound so real, you'll start believing it. Okay? So object consciousness has to continue. Why? Because along with the pot, if the object consciousness is also destroyed, how will you recognize the next pot? Yeah, that is also true. How will I recognize the next pot? Nah. No, this is a big landmine, I'll tell you why, because that is the Itichet's contention. That if, first he is an extreme fellow. First he says Sadbuddhi is also destroyed. Is consciousness is destroyed. Then we have news for him, we say no, is consciousness continues, because is consciousness recognizes other things in the room, even though one thing gets destroyed. Alright, is consciousness does not get destroyed, then object consciousness should not also get destroyed, because after all they are two friends together. Why do you want to separate them? And the answer to that also is what? Na visheshya abhavat sadbuddhihi, sadbuddhihi visheshana vishaya sati visheshya abhave visheshana anupapattau kim vishaya syat natu punah sadbuddhehe vishaya abhavat. He says evam anuchitam, because it's completely ridiculous to think that when the pot is destroyed, the consciousness is also destroyed. Why? Because this sat buddhi is always there, even in the next pot. Correct? Yeah. How can it be destroyed? How does it cognize the next pot and the pot after that and the pot after that? So just because, and see, he's giving him the same thing. This is called, there is a particular, name for this kind of a thing. It is like a judo. What is that called? No, in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, this kind of an argument where you flip over, you make what they say, they have given a cause, they have given a logic, and you flip the logic over them and use it against them in the answer. So this is what is being done with a lot of finesse. So these two awarenesses are there, and then if then therefore the awareness of the pot is also, the sadbuddhi is also destroyed. He says the sadbuddhi is not destroyed. Why? Because it persists in the cloth. It persists in other things. The object consciousness is only destroyed because the consciousness is not destroyed. That to which becomes evident to consciousness is destroyed, and then not to the thing itself, that consciousness itself. So the awareness of reality is seen to be persisting in the cloth, etc. So the awareness relates to the adjective called pot, not the noun called pot, because there is no other noun. Only thing that is. So that is what is the answer to that. So sadbuddhi can never get destroyed, and neither can asadbuddhi continues. So the asad buddhi cannot continue. Let's see where we are. There are so many iti chets. Patadau adarshanath, and then sadbuddhi api nashte na drishyate iti chet. We saw that. Visheshya bhavat, because it's not an adjective. It's not qualifying the pot, and it is not just attached to the pot like blue and pot. So if pot is destroyed, blueness is also destroyed. No, not like that. It is qualifying the pot in a different way, as it were. It is qualifying the pot in the sense of what? In the sense of lending its existence. So therefore, the object consciousness cannot continue with the destruction of the objects. एक अधिकरणत्वं घटादि विशेष्य अभावे न युक्तम् इति चेत्. Next one. So it doesn't stop at all, goes on and on. So he says, can we not say, what if the awareness of the consciousness is not present in the, can we not say that the awareness is not present in relation to the pot that has met with destruction? Why not? Why cannot we say that? Can we not say that? And what is he trying to ask? Nothing. It's just continuing the same thing. It's the same thing he has asked from three different angles. So really speaking, that's why, his Adi Shankara's responses are very one-sentence responses. They're not even giving him the time of day. Each thing is just more and more convoluted. We have seen this, Sadbuddhi does not get destroyed. Asad Buddhi gets destroyed all the time. And what is this Asad Buddhi? Object consciousness. Is consciousness, qualifies, as it were, the object consciousness by lending its presence and its sentience to all objects, to bring them to light. When the objects are destroyed, the is consciousness continues. Is consciousness neither gets destroyed along with the objects, nor drags the objects along after they have been destroyed. And here the same thing is saying, that is consciousness persists, but not in the way that you think. You think that the residues of the destroyed pot will always be in front of the eyes like a permanent fixture. That is not true. Because as soon after you see pot, you see flower. You don't see the flower on the pot. And after you see flower, you see something else, fruit. You don't see the pot, on top of that the flower, on top of that the fruit. So if the object consciousness was persisting, this would be the situation. The object consciousness has to come and rise and fall, so that the mind is able to have these various impressions without really getting lost in the object. But how come dukkha consciousness comes and stays and stays and stays? That's because there has been a serious mix-up of sat and asat. This is what the whole thing is. The next three are a little more involved, so we will defer them till tomorrow. Because we are changing the gears a little bit here. So far it was all about which is the real consciousness and which one is destroyed and which one persists. So these three objections dealt with that. Next we have to shift the thought a little bit. We'll see that. Oh, it's also time. We'll see that tomorrow. Okay? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. This one I'll have to borrow because that one doesn't work. Yeah? Okay? Yeah? Yeah?